at parent functions, their characteristics, and how we talk about their transformations. I had somebody last period go, how do you know what you're putting on that graph? Well, you've got to be real friendly with the parent functions. You need to know how to put those on the graph without really thinking a whole lot, because it's going to look the same and contain the same points every single time. Okay? The parent function will look the same every time. So the first thing we're going to start out with is talking about the family of graphs. The family of graphs is like what we've been talking about in terms of functions. It's a group of graphs that display the similar characteristics. So, like when we talk about linear functions, they all result in what on the graph? A line. Always? Always. Linear functions always make some sort of line. Does everybody agree? The absolute value functions always make some sort of what? What does their graph look like?
A V.
A V. Imagine that. I got a lot of lines for that absolute value function on that quiz. It's going to always make a V, right? Always. What about quadratics? What are they going to make? Parabolas. Always? Always. Everybody with me? So anytime we see those certain kinds of functions, we should automatically have an idea of what the graph looks like. Yes? All right, the parent graph is simply the graph of the parent function. Parent function is the simplest form in the family. So we're going to start with the constant function. We haven't talked about the constant function yet. Many of you answered that on your quiz. We haven't talked about it yet, but here it is. Constant function. We're going to look at a graph. Constant function happens from a horizontal lines. Horizontal lines represent a constant function. They are your f of x equal to a, where a is any number. Not hashtag, number. This one specifically is f of x equal to 2, because that's the number of the y-intercept there. It's a line whose domain, it keeps going from left to right, so it's going to be a domain of what? All real numbers. It keeps going on and on forever and ever, amen, from left to right, right? No x values are excluded. But for the range, there are y values excluded. In fact, it only carries a single y value throughout the whole line. And that value is whatever a is. So whatever number your y equals is the only y of the range. And here specifically, my range would be what? 2. Does everybody agree? Okay. Let's talk about linear functions. And I want to talk about the identity function. What does identity mean? What it is? I agree with that. You might give a little more detail. Cameron equals who? Cameron. Yes? Nathan is who? Nathan. Does everybody agree? Okay. The identity function means my x equals my y. Okay? That only happens with the parent function of linears. That only happens with the parent function of linears. You with me? Let's say it one more time. That only happens with the parent function of linears. Yet we haven't even talked about this, but you guys chose some identity function. Think about what you put in your notes when you're taking those quizzes, right? That's really important. So this identity function looks like this. Every y equals this. Every y equals the x. And every linear function carries a domain of what? All real numbers. And every linear function carries a range of all real numbers. Every stinking one of them. That's going to be on video. Dang it. Every one of them. Those are the moments. Okay. Huh?
Just cut that one out.
I don't know how to do all that, so it's going on YouTube. Y'all can be like, watch this. That's why I had to take the other one off. I'll have to tell you after we're not on video what I said. So bad. I read something from statistics this morning, and I don't know why I thought I needed to read that out loud. All right, the next one is absolute value. So this is the last one we looked at recently, right? You guys said, hey, it's going to carry a V. This function makes the V shape. Its domain, does it have any spots that it stops from left to right? Any x values not included? No, it's all real numbers, right? All right, what about the range though? Are there ranges not included?
Yes.
Are there y values not included? Yes. Where does it include y values? Greater than or equal to 0. Greater than or equal to 0. Interval notation written this way, right? Greater than or equal to the vertex. Or less than or equal to the vertex on some of these transformations that we're going to make, right?
That's the only way you can write the range.
No, I'm going to make, no, you could say y's equal to, I'm sorry, y's such that y's are greater than or equal to 0.
Oh, you cannot put just the equal to greater than or equal to 0, right? Right.
I wouldn't mark it wrong. If it were open-ended, I wouldn't mark it wrong. But just being able to recognize this for either or on the homework. A lot of the homework's asking for this one because pre-cal asked for a lot of this. Yes? Okay. And then lastly, quadratic function. This one I'm going to be a little more specific in my points. When I put the parent function on here. Making this U-shaped, where f of x equals x squared. What do you notice are some similar characteristics between the quadratics and the absolute values?
What's our B?
Both have that same upward opening shape, yes. One's a little more sharp, one's a curve, right?
And that they have the symmetric points on both sides.
They have symmetric on both sides. I like it. All right, so talking about their domain. They carry the same domain, all real numbers. What about their range? Same as well. It carries that vertex greater than, right? Or vertex less than, depending on the shape here, but on this one, it is greater than. On the parent function, it is greater than. All right, other questions? Oh, all right, I'm gonna flip my paper if you have this. Like right here, I can delete out the dead space. I think I can do that, which means I probably can figure out how to take out the other thing. I don't know what I said anymore.
The range is like that because
It's the same thing. It's everything greater than 0 because it's none of these y values, right? It starts at 0 and goes up. They carry some of the same characteristics, but their graphs are very different because of the strict V shape and the U parabola. These will never come to a point in a V. These will. Good questions. Okay, so let's talk first about the reflection. Are y'all passing notes because we're on camera?
No, every single time I pull out my whiteout, I make a little mark on her paper and write a smiley face on it.
Gotcha.
You can see it throughout our notes too.
All right, so reflection. Reflection flips an image or figure or graph over a line of reflection.